Hey guys, welcome to My Sew Bliss. Today I'm super excited to share with you another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a wrap skirt. I will put a picture of the one I previously made right here, somewhere around here. And it's such a cute linen fabric. It's yellow, my favorite color if you haven't noticed. And I think it's just going to be perfect for summer. Throw it on, tie that bad boy up, and ready to go. So cute. So I'm going to make another one with you. In the Folds made it for Peppermint magazine. They did like a collaboration on it. And then I think it was like printed in the magazine. And I think they do like a free one every month maybe. I'm going to look into it a little more because they have some really good ones. So you can go onto Peppermint Magazine's website and get it for free. They do ask if you can donate, obviously, like donate some money to them because this is a great free pattern. So it doesn't hurt, like $1 or $2, $3, like however much you can to get this pattern would be great, I'm sure, for them and helping them run this amazing magazine and get free patterns like this for us later on down the road. So I'm super excited about this one. It's a really quick, easy sew, great for beginners, and super fun, perfect for summer. So I have my fabric cut out. I'm using this, this gorgeous, that's the wrong side, but this is a Ruby Star Society cotton, super lightweight. Apparently I'm having like a blue theme today, but I've had this fabric for like 2, 3, 4 maybe years. I don't know when it came out, probably like a while ago, but I've had it. I saw someone else make a shirt out of the red version of this fabric. I think it was a shirt or maybe it was a dress. I don't know. I don't even remember, but then I had to buy the fabric immediately, but then I never did anything with it. And I just decided the other day, I was like, this fabric is calling to be a wrap skirt, so we're gonna figure it out, and found this awesome pattern. So that's enough talking from me. Let's get started. I have mine cut out. So let's get going making our wrap skirt. For our first step, we need to prepare our darts, and you should have one on the left front side and the right front side, and then on the back you should have 2. So we're going to do the same thing to each one. I just take my pattern piece when it's lined up and I mark the dot on the wrong side of the fabric, and then I mark the point of the dart as well. And then once we take that pattern off, set that to the side, I'm going to take it and put the lines of the dart. So I also cut in, so there's a cut, like a little notch right there, and I'm going to match those up first and pin that in place. Then I come down to where my markings are, which you can see one right here. So this was my dot. First one was right here. And I'm just going to straighten that out, line it up, and put a pin where the dot was, and then put a pin where the marking is for the end of the dart. So that way I can take it over to my sewing machine and stitch from my notches, and I'll stitch to the dot and then down straight to the end of the dart and sew off the edge. So let me show you how I do that. Over at the sewing machine, like I said, I'm going to start where my notches are, just at the top, and I'm going to go do a straight stitch. I'm going to back stitch a little, and then I'm going to angle down to the dot. So that very first pin that I have there, or first marking if you didn't pin it, I'm going right to that dot or to the pin, and then once I've reached the pin or dot, I'm then going to just go along the edge until I reach the bottom of the dart. So this is just like a straight line. Before it was angled. And when you finish and get to the bottom, you're just going to take it and go off the edge. And I usually just do like one stitch and then off the edge, and then pull my threads and cut them. So I didn't back stitch or anything, because then I'm going to take the tails and tie a little knot at the bottom of it to secure the dart in place. So I'm going to do this. There are 4 darts, like I said, 2 on the back piece and 1 on the left side piece and 1 on the right side piece. And I can also just trim these at the top. So I'm going to do that same thing to all the darts, and I'm going to iron them so that they're laying towards the center of the body as well. So you can see right here on the right side, this is how my dart's going to look. I need to go iron that, but it should lay nice, and then give your fabric a little dimension for it to lay nicely on your body. After you've got all your darts ready, next we're going to take our 2 front pieces and we're going to finish off the straight side. So you'll see that one side has a curve, so that's like for your hips, where that's going to go, and then this is going to be the straight edge side, and we're going to take that and I'm going to iron it over 1/2 inch once, and then I'm going to take it again and fold it over another 1/2 inch and iron that so we can stitch that in place, and that way we don't have any raw edges. You won't have any fraying. It'll look really nice and professional when we're finished. So I'm going to go ahead and iron so that we can take it over to the sewing machine and stitch it. With that iron, I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to do what's called top stitching. It's just stitching on the right side. I'm going to do it a little less than a 1/2 inch, because that will catch this edge right here that we just ironed, and just hold it in place and make it look really nice. My fabric irons really nicely, so I didn't feel like I needed to pin it. If you are having issues with your fabric laying right, I would definitely make sure to pin that beforehand so that you can get a good sew. You can do some good top stitching on that. One thing that I really love about this pattern is that it has you do French seams for your side seams, and that is just going to encase it and make sure that you have no raw edges, which is super nice, especially when you're using a cotton or a linen like I did on my last one, because those are going to fray a lot. But this way it's encased and I don't have to worry about it, and it looks really professional. So for our next step to do this French seam, we're finishing off our side seams. I'm just matching up one of my pieces, one of my sides. This is my left side piece. I matched it up wrong sides together with my back piece. And you can see, like, here's the curve of where my hip will be. And I'm going to stitch that at a 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch my right side piece to the other side of my back piece. Again, wrong sides together this time so that we can do those French seams and have it look super professional. Once you have that side seam sewn, wrong sides together, we're then going to take it, and I actually like to cut mine first. In the tutorial, it has you iron it to one side first, but I find it easier just to trim it first and then I'll iron it. So I'm going to trim it down so that the seam allowance is 1/8 inch. Once that's trimmed, then I will open it up over at my ironing board, and I will iron that seam to one side. It doesn't matter what side you do, just a good iron really helps us to finish off this next step and make it look really nice. Once that seam is ironed open into one side, I like to put the pieces right sides together now. And here's my seam over here, and I'm going to fold it in half, and I like to iron it one more time before we go do our stitching, and just make sure that seam is right in the middle, so it's like sandwiched is really what we're doing. We're creating a sandwich and going to sew that in place so that it is encasing that raw edge. So giving it a good iron beforehand just really helps it to turn out nice as possible. And now I'm ready to sew those right sides together. Here's that sandwich seam right there. And I'm going to sew those at a 1/4 inch, and it should encase that seam and all that raw edge. Once that's done, you can open it up and see. It's hard to tell, but that's my seam right there. It's all encased, and I can just iron that encasing to one side, and it'll look really nice. So I just love how that French seam makes it look super professional. So now I'm ready to take it and do the same exact thing that I just did on that side seam with my other side seam and my other front piece. Once you have your side seam sewn, we're then going to take our two tie pieces and put them right sides together and line up the ends that have the notches on them. I'm going to pin those in place so that we can sew those together. And another thing that you can do right now, depending on your fabric, is put a little patch of interfacing right over where the marking is on your pattern for, it's supposed to be like a buttonhole that the tie goes through, that we're going to finish off later. So I put some on there for my cotton fabric because it'll fray if it doesn't have something like that on there. So like I said, depending on your fabric, if you want to put that on there as well, just line it up with where it's marked on your pattern and then put it on the wrong side of your fabric, so it'll be inside your waistband piece, your tie piece, waistband piece, same thing. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew these right sides together. Once you have those waistband pieces sewn together, I then press that seam open, and then we're going to take our waistband and pin it to the top of the skirt. And we're going to start with our center back. So this seam that we just sewn is going to be the center back, and there is a notch right at the center back piece. So we're just going to start by matching that up and pinning that in place. And then you can go around and make sure the notches from your waistband piece, you've cut into those, and you're going to line those up along your waist. So there should be a notch for the dart that we did on the back, and a notch for the side seam right here. So I'm just going to go around and line up all my notches, pin those in place, and get it ready to sew. Over the sewing machine, I'm going to line my raw edge up, and I'm just going to start right at the end of where the skirt and the waistband will line up and meet up at the end. So it's the last notch on there. And I have my tie all the way at the back, but I'm just going to be sewing at 3/8 of an inch to tie that to sew that waistband on and go all the way around it. With the waist tie sewn on, I'm then going to just iron that seam up into the waistband, and then once I have that ironed, I'm going to take the rest of this, the tie part, and we're going to iron it so the right sides are together and get it ready for us to sew this in place next. For this next step, we're going to be sewing the ties of our waistband. So it's helpful to put a pin right here to make sure that you know that's where you're going to stop and you're not going to keep sewing onto the actual skirt. So we're just folding that tie in half. That's why we just ironed it. And if you want to, you can also pin those edges, but we're just putting right sides together, raw edges lined up, and we're going to stitch that at 3/8 of an inch. And one thing that I liked to do on my other one that I did is I just started up here at 3/8 of an inch and then came down and pivoted and then came all the way around. The pattern doesn't have you do that, but I found it really easy and it cuts out an extra step later on. So I'm going to start and do it that way and do both of my ties just like this. Once I have my waistbands sewn, I'm then going to trim off 1/4 of an inch all the way around the waistband that we sewed, not on the actual skirt. And right here I am going to trim this corner just so that point comes out a lot nicer. So I'm going to do this on both of my waistbands. Next, we're going to take some tube turning tools, which a lot of times I just use straws. I even have like the tube turning tools, but sometimes I just like to use these, or you could use a bodkin or something like that. But I just slide it on to the larger straw, take a smaller straw and poke it through and turn that waist tie right sides out. Oh, there we go. So whatever method you like to use, and then just pull that out and we can iron that. I'll make sure my corners get turned out, cut any threads that got sewn in there, but then it can be ironed. But if you look over here, see how it just lined up perfectly because we sewed right to this, and then I even trimmed right to it. And then we'll be able to have that lay flat, and then this will turn under in a second in our coming steps and look so nice. So it's coming along really nicely. So let me turn this other tie and then we can go to our next step. Like I said, I'm going to iron my ties, and I've done that. And now I'm going to iron the rest of the waistband so it lies with the wrong sides together. And then I'm going to turn this raw edge under, and it's just barely going to cover the stitching that we did to sew that waistband onto the skirt. And it's just going to give us this really nice finished look. So I'm going to go all the way along the back of it, or in the sides of it. It's a back and side. And just fold that under and fold it in half. And that will just lay so nicely and look so good. Once I have that all ironed nicely, I'm going to pin this in place just so it will hold nicely and it doesn't shift around. Again, like I said, just covering that stitching that we did. And I'm actually going to pin it from the right side because that's what we're going to sew it from, because we're going to stitch in the ditch so that you can't see our stitching very well. And hopefully it's hidden for the most part. And it's going to catch this so we won't have any raw edges showing, and it'll just look really nice. So I'm just going to catch it from the right side, coming up through and catching the waistband. And it'll look so nice. So then we can take it over to the sewing machine. So like I said, I'm going to be stitching on the right side of the fabric, and we're going to be doing what is called stitching in the ditch, which is stitching in the seam allowance that we have right along here. And if you stitch in it well enough or good enough, then hopefully you won't be able to see that seam at all. And it'll catch this edge on the back and cover that, so that way it holds it in place. And like I said, no more raw edges. So it's just a really nice finish, especially for a waistband like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. After you've stitched in the ditch and finished off your waistband, it should look really nice, clean. You can iron it again if you want to. But now we just need to finish off the hem on the bottom of the skirt. So if you want to try it on and make sure you like the length of it, this is a great time to do that. Just tie it around your waist and see where it hits. I think for now I'm going to keep mine as it is. I like it. I considered making it shorter, but I think I really like how bold this print is. And so I want to keep it as it is for now. So to hem it, we're going to do pretty much the exact same thing we did on the side to create this side seam. I'm just going to roll up, well, fold up the bottom edge. So it's still a raw edge right now. I'm going to fold it up 1/2 inch and iron it. And then I'm going to go and do that the whole way around. Whoops. And then I'll fold it up again 1/2 inch. And I'm doing definitely more like of a generous 1/2 inch this time, just because I like a little bit of a bigger, thicker hem at the bottom. So even if you wanted to, you could do like 1 inch up. Maybe I'll do that. So 1/2 inch and then 1 inch up like this, so we can finish it off and then sew it in place. So I'm going to iron that first so that it's ready to go and be sewn in place. After you have that hem finished all the way around, it looks really good. Our final step is going to be putting in a buttonhole so that the strap can go through it. So I'm going to be just switching my machine over to my buttonhole stitch. This does it in 4 steps. So these are my 4 steps. And then I marked where it goes. I can kind of feel that interfacing we put in earlier. So I can start and just put in a vertical buttonhole right here. And like I said, it's gonna be for the strap, the other one, not this one, but the other one to go through. So I want it big enough that this could lay in it nicely. A little, just slightly smaller than the actual waistband. Once you have your buttonhole done, mine got a little wonky right here, but I'm okay with that. I'm gonna cut it open and then it's ready to go. If you wanna put some like fray check on it, that can be super helpful, especially if you're fabric frays or if you're worried about stitches coming undone. And you want to cut right to your stitching and not through your stitching, because if you cut through it, you're going to want to do another buttonhole. Okay, so there it is, ready to go, and I can try it on. All right, guys, so once you're done with that buttonhole, you can try it on, see how you like it. It's a little long trying to get it in frame for you guys, but I really like how it turned out. It kind of is giving me like Hawaiian vibes. I don't know if that's just me and maybe like the fabric I used. I didn't even think about that until just now trying it on, so kind of funny. But I really like how it turned out, and it's super comfy and like perfect. You can tie it however you want, whatever. So super fun. I love how it turned out, and I'm excited to wear this one and my yellow one that I made. I'll put pictures right here if I can get some of those done. And thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. You can check out any of the things I talked about, like the pattern in the description. I'll put a link for that. And then if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below in the comment section and I'll try to get back to you. But other than that, make sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!